We are talking dating, what not to do. We learned the hard way. Let's learn from mine and Tara's mistakes today.
Absolutely, because that's what an intelligent person does, is they learn from other people's mistakes.
One dating expert I follow, a love life expert, she's actually happily married. She said that, isn't it funny when you spend years trying to change your partner and then realize that you needed to change yourself? So
Facts.
I think that having a healthy relationship means facing yourself, like take extreme responsibility for your role. So that's what we're doing. And we're going to break down what we learned in each relationship.
Yes, ma'am.
And how many relationships back are you going today?
All of them.
Oh, dang.
It's really not that many though, because I am a long-term relationship girly. So, they're all around like 5 years, and then they get nixed.
Oh no.
No. All jokes aside. No, all of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Didn't work out.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So let's jump into it. Who's gonna go first? Let's start with our most recent relationships. I broke up with my boyfriend in November, and you broke up with your ex in, what was it, last May?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's gonna go first? Rock, paper, scissors?
The tea is really piping hot.
Just like the tea we're about to drop. Rock, paper, scissors.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay. Go.
I have to go first.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I dated Terry and we broke up in November. You guys know it's on my Instagram. We were Instagram official. A couple things that I learned from that relationship, what not to do. Don't enter a relationship with an addiction to anxiety. I got into that relationship when I had a dysregulated nervous system. And I know that you should be in a place of peace yourself in order to attract a healthy partner. That's what they say. And I knew I had anxiety issues getting into it. Or, I was like, I'm alone, I'm working on myself, but then he shows up at my door and I like him. And I was like, well, let's just date. And, I had anxiety before meeting him. So I was like, is this going to be a healthy relationship? Well, what you're putting out, you attract. So if I'm anxious already, I'm going to attract someone who gives me more anxiety, more reasons to be anxious. So suddenly it was an emotional roller coaster of anxiety, but I should have fully healed before getting into a relationship. I think it's what I learned, this far in my life. I'm pretty good at taking responsibility. So throughout things anxious roller coaster of that relationship, I would own it every time and be like, okay, I have so much anxiety about this situation, but I'm not going to take it out on him. I'm going to look at how can I heal my nervous system. But I think had I just fully healed to begin with, I wouldn't have gotten into an emotional roller coaster of a relationship. So that's point number one with that relationship. And I have another point, but what's your first point?
My first point is I do have to touch on the topic that you do need to heal first before you go into another relationship, but you also need to date in order to heal, right? So
that's true. Like you can't learn to ride a horse by not getting on the horse. Yeah. You just gotta get on and learn.
So my thing that I learned is you or the person you're dating don't talk about your exes at all. Like, don't do that.
Is that what you guys did?
No, not what I did at first.
Uh-huh.
And so, but then also to touch on that, if they describe like their exes as crazy, like very like front on, don't do that. Do not do that. That is definitely not something that I will go in the future and allow in my dating environment.
You won't go for someone who calls their ex crazy.
Absolutely. Because even, especially like in the beginning stages, because if they're saying that about their ex, and they were obviously with them because they had their great moments, their good times, but if they're just basking in the trauma, the deranged, or when they knew they should have cut it off, but they didn't, then that is kind of just like, it's just like a dating no that I'm gonna do. Like, and I like that now. So that was one thing that I learned from past relationships. Just don't. And I'm not accepting it.
Okay, my second point with my last relationship. I'm doing 2 points with each relationship. My second one.
And I'm really generalizing, to be honest, because I have had a habit of not breaking the type of men I've dated.
Not breaking.
Like, not breaking it. Like, they've all had a certain type. Like, they've had this certain red flags, but I just ignored them. Like, oh, it's okay because I am a nurturer and I'm empathetic, and if I love them correctly, then they'll be fine. That's a no-no. That's a no-go.
So just not
I'm generalizing,
not addressing red flags.
Of course, absolutely.
Okay, my second point is don't believe that he is your last best option. You need to believe in God more. Don't let your man become like your idol, your God. So my last relationship, I was more in love with him than with anyone in life. And so I was just like, well, this is it. This is what I want. And I got to make this work. And so through all the hell, I just kept holding on. And I think what you need to do is, I think you need to just detach more and keep your poise. I think the more you rely on God than on this man is my source of husband and children. If you go back to, okay, God is my source of husband and children that I want. Like, God's going to bring that no matter what. Then when whatever the man is doing, you can keep your poise in the faith with God that what you want is on its way. And you're not pulled into his whims and his ups and downs and like trying to direct the ship with him yourself. So I think you can get some healthy detachment if you rely more on God as your source of what you desire. And that healthy detachment encourages both of you to stand in honor and not tear each other down at all.
I am slightly smiling because this is an Aquarius talking about being detached. So
we're talking about
you're
my
right. You're completely right, but it's just
because Aqua is like the queen of detachment.
Yes.
But what's interesting is that most of my life I have been highly detached, like too detached, which is probably why I'm single right now. So Terry and I broke up in November, and the thing that recently changed is through like a lot of work on myself. I was able to open my heart more and like be real about the desire to be attached, you know. So the idea for a lot of Aquariuses of being attached to someone is like freaks them out, and it takes more courage, I think, for an Aquarius to say, I want to be attached to someone. So I opened up and said, you know, I want that, and I'm going to have courage in love and dive all the way in. And then it's like you're clinging in or clinging out, and it's like I think so at this point in my life, I'm like finding that balance of like saying, yes, I'm ready to be attached to someone like for life, but learning that being attached to them does not mean codependency. It like that unhealthy, toxic, emotional up and down codependency. What it means, you have to put your faith in God as your source first, is what I learned so much these past few months. And so going back to, if you know that this man is not the end all be all, like you love him very much, but he's not the end all be all, God is, And if God says you're meant to be married with children, which I know that's my case, well, then that's happening no matter what. You can let go and let the man go if needed. If it's just not working out, you don't have to like you don't have to bend over backwards to try to force this thing to work. When it's toxic, you can just loosen your grip and let the relationship slip away if it has to, because you're standing in the honor of what you know is being good and healthy and honorable. So anyway, it was just quite a thing I went through a few months ago, and I just leaned into faith a lot. And so I think going into relationship with the man as your source of your happiness is like not a good thing.
Just losing faith, like in general, because I lost my faith in my source of like spirituality with my last relationship. And I feel like that is like what kind of got me in like the tornado effect of it, and which it didn't reground me. And so I did realize that. So that's why after I left, I spoke to you about that and told you. And so that's one thing, is like you can't lose like your faith, your spirituality, whatever you believe in. You can't lose those roots, because you'll lose yourself.
Yes. I think when you break up or you're going through a hard time, it's easy to like turn to God then, but then you fall in love with someone and you're on that high of that, and you cast out your spiritual practice, and then pretty soon that person is like your God and your idol, and a day when they stop loving you is like you're in hell. But if you just have God as your source the whole time, you're never in hell. So amen. Okay, so what's your next one?
So on a lighter topic, and I have recently learned this, but when you start like dating wealthy, successful men, do not be late. Show up on time. Absolutely. Do not be late. And so I don't have a habit of like being extremely late. I have a habit of doing like 5-10 minutes, which I feel like is pretty good. Don't do that.
Be like completely on time.
Be on time.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. Be on
There's
time.
a lot of because time is money, and men who make money value time.
And a man that respects his own time, that means he respects himself. That means he knows how to give respect, show respect, and I feel like that is just a little key thing that we could just take. And if we can't make it that day, just cancel it, reschedule it for another day. Everything happens for a reason. So now I am always on time.
Wow, that's good. I'm still working on that.
It's an air sign though, and that's what I have to explain to people. Being an air sign, it is very hard, and I feel like I'm able to kind of like tap into mine a little bit more, is because I am a Virgo Libra cusp, and so I'm like trying to lean over to that Virgo side of being a little more detail oriented, but I am still at the end of the day a Libra.
Yeah.
So
I'm getting better at communicating. Communication is not exactly Aquarius trait, and
I feel like you're great at communications. That's your job.
Well, we don't like. I mean, when you're talking about ideas, like what's the meaning of the universe?
Oh yes, okay.
But if I have to tell you every little detail about my life all day and talk feelings and stuff, then no, we didn't. Like that's our weakness. But we're like, if I'm running late, it's like, oh, he'll understand. Well, no, I've learned, no, that's a sign of disrespect. If I'm running late or something, I need to text and let him know. Little things like that.
But those little things, though, also too, when you reciprocate that respect for somebody's time, it just puts you in a different dating caliber as well too. So,
yes. Okay, can we interject our thoughts on good morning texts?
Was a good morning text?
So okay. I don't know if it's an air sign thing or what, but I'm not a huge. Honestly, I do not like good morning text. I don't want the guy to send that.
I can live without him. My day will go on, and I will enjoy my day without him. Now, if you start the relationship with him, you're kind of setting the standard of what you like and how you do things, in my eyes.
Yeah.
So if you start sending them and then not sending them, that's when I'm just like, okay, like you're off your pattern. What's going on, mister?
So I think it's just very.
But I can live without him.
Well, it's incredibly important not to emasculate the man you're with.
Of course.
And if I'm telling him, don't send me a good morning text, like I feel like that's emasculating. You're telling the guy what to do. So
and you really shouldn't tell anybody what to do, especially dating.
So that's why I don't say not to. Yeah, I don't like not telling. And this is, I think this ties into what we've learned the hard way is like all the tiny things that are actually emasculating, not honoring the man. So to tell the guy what he must do is ridiculous. Like, let's live and let live.
Yeah, if I'm telling a man what to do, I've lost all respect for him.
So my prior relationship with my ex Taylor, I guess we're naming names.
I'm generalizing mine.
He sent me a good morning text,
and
I replied, "Is that a good morning text?" Side eye. Which, in retrospect, I think that was a little emasculating.
Maybe. I'm actually in my brain right now. I'm trying to interpret it, like, from his perspective.
I was
like,
trying to be lighthearted.
What would he... How do you respond?
He responded with the emojis of, like, the wheatgrass flowing and side eyes going between.
That's fun. That's kind of fun. That was a good response.
But so there were no more good morning texts after that.
Okay. So he initially got the hint. That's pretty good. He got the signal. But I like his response.
Anyway, so now I'm like, I'll accept the good morning text, but I'll just add substance to it. The problem I have with good morning texts, they don't have substance. It's like texting, hey. Like, why did you just say hey?
Facts. I do not like that. Like the what are you doing or hi. Like, yes, there has to be substance to those texts. I don't respond well to hi.
So I don't criticize someone's texting style. I think that's emasculating. I've learned not to do that. I just add the substance that I would desire in the first place. But, I just respond with substance.
I just read my next one.
Oh, what is it?
Okay, please. I'm 33 years old. I did this in my 20s. Don't pay for the guy you're dating's rent.
Was he older or younger than you?
He was 3 years older than me.
Oh my word.
But my career was booming. It was great. And I was doing exceptionally well. But what that taught me and taught him, okay. Oh my gosh. I still can't believe it's so embarrassing. I'm so mortified because he cost me so much more money, but in the long term. And if I would have seen that, not allowed that in dating and be like, no, you can't do that in dating, then it wouldn't have cost me 100 times that amount.
Well, it probably, I'm going to guess it screwed up your gender roles. The chemistry.
Completely.
It ruined the chemistry between you guys.
It really did.
Chemistry is sacred. You have to, adhere to gender roles to preserve chemistry.
You're completely factual on that because and I didn't even know what emasculating a man was. And so then that's when the process, me emasculating him started. And that it just was a bad cycle. So,
to learn how not to emasculate a man, please read the book Keys to the Kingdom. What a life-changing. You gotta read it.
Read it.
Let me just say, one of my girlfriends. So, ever since I got a hold of that book last spring, I've been telling all my single girlfriends about it, or even coupled up girlfriends. It's actually fantastic for married women too. And my one friend, she's been single forever. I tell her about this book. She actually takes my advice, reads it. I don't see her a few months. I see her again. I don't know that she's read the book, but there's this softness in her aura. Like she's feminine. She's more feminine than I've ever seen her be. And I'm like, what is going on? Well, she took that book into like her soul. She like absorbed that book and became the feminine that we all need to be. And boom, a month later, she had a boyfriend. This chick she's like in deep with her boyfriend now. I'm so proud. So read that book, Keys to the Kingdom. All right, the next point that I learned from, maybe I shouldn't be naming names here, my one ex, what you fight against you attract is what I learned. So I had this like animosity about like beta boys. I was just like, and I was emasculating men just by calling them beta. And what you need to do is lay down your sword against all men. Start honoring every single man that you come across in business, in relationships and friendships, with children. Every male, start honoring their maleness. I was not doing that with this ex. I entered into the relationship with him having a frustration with the beta boys out there in America today. Instead of honoring them, saying they are God's children, they are wonderful humans. Nobody's perfect, and I can honor them, send them love, and send them on their way. But instead, I was like, had this like spiritual headbutting with them. So I attract one.
Of course.
And I proceed to be frustrated that he turns out to be that way. And start doing things to try to get him to be more manly, which only emasculated him more rather than just letting him be, showing him love, minding my own business a little more. And so I learned the hard way on that. And I had a big, after like a week or two after we broke up, I had this big aha moment about attracting what you fight against. It will come to you if you're angry about it. Putting energy, any sort of emotion into something brings it to you.
Well,
and I was like,
you
oh,
feed,
stop. Yeah, I was like, stop being upset that someone's not up to your manliness standards, up to your testosterone standards, whatever. Just love them anyway. It's okay. And I laid down my sword about alpha versus beta. And immediately these very masculine men started to approach me and want to date me. And that my next relationship was with a very masculine man. So that's the big point I learned the hard way.
Yeah. One thing I did learn too is taking people for who they are.
Yes.
In this present moment. Do not fall in love with potential. Don't go home and daydream about the future. Don't let him or her, whatever, tell you about the future plans. Live in the moment and enjoy that person, like even their character flaws and their character highlights that day, that moment. And
like if they stay this way for the rest of their life, are you okay with that? You better be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I've been applying that, and that has just like elevated completely. Like now I'm in a whole different learning spectrum.
And just like entering appreciation mode, like not nitpicking mode. Yeah, no more nitpicking your man. That is so unattractive.
But just anybody in general, like again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Whatever you feed, it's going to flourish.
Yes.
So
totally. Yeah. So that is so good. Okay, so that was your last one.
Let's see. Oh no,
That was that
I
was
have
just
a
a little
couple more.
add-on.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was just an add-on, but no, throw one out there. Let's go.
Okay. The other thing, okay, what I learned is to own my accomplishments. So don't downplay yourself going into a relationship.
Yes.
I learned that in the past 2 years. The older I've gotten, the more successful I've gotten, and I'm becoming aware of like what that means to men and the gender roles, and like there's the more successful the woman, the greater percentage of men there are that are now no longer the gender role fit because you're more successful than them. So I was trying to fit my square peg into a round hole, or fit his square peg into my round hole.
Okay, that's not this kind of channel.
Just what I'm saying is,
Our moms are gonna watch this. I agree.
Cut. What I'm saying is that I was like, I'll just hide some of my success and like act like he's successful. I'll act like he's more successful than he is, and I'll act like I'm less successful than I am, to try to like teeter totter our gender roles in the right way, so that the man can still feel like the provider, and I'm when I'm clearly way more successful than him. And so I downplayed my accomplishments. It was a toxic thing. Just be authentic. Authenticity is so important in relationships. So I'm learning, like, no more hiding anything. Just be exactly what you are. Be happy about your accomplishments. You should be, for goodness sake. You work so hard for these things. And let the ones that don't fit in your hole fall by the wayside. Fall by the wayside, you know? I'm like being more open about dating right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a post about dating on Instagram, and some guy made this in the comment section, like, well, a woman shouldn't own a house if she's looking for a man, because it sends this subtle vibe that she wants to be the provider when he's supposed to. And
That's just
weird. And there's a tendency to like emotionally react, to be like, you're wrong. But I need to just keep the poise, allow people like that fall by the wayside. Well, clearly you will never be like with someone like me.
Yeah, just gracefully
And
stay in your lane.
I will naturally gravitate towards someone who probably owns more property than me. And that's just the way that it goes. So that was one of the big things I learned the hard way.
I'm the opposite. I downplay like all of my.
No, that's what I'm saying.
No.
I was doing that.
Oh no, like I don't downplay it, but I don't bring it up. I don't like celebrate my accomplishments. I try to. I'm right now trying to like figure that line out of.
I think
not being too humble. My mom humbled me like so much. And so now, like, you know, she has even been like, you need to write out all your accomplishments, because girl, she's like, little girl, you have a lot that you've done.
Yeah.
And I
do
definitely diminish my accomplishments.
No, that's what I would do. I would hide my stuff. I wouldn't talk about it or act like it's not a big deal. And I do still struggle with this now that I'm entering the dating market again.
I'm struggling with that.
It's just like I don't want people to see my Instagram. Like when they ask for my Instagram, I was like, oh my gosh. Because they're going to see my big following, and then they're going to get a complex about it instead of owning it and be like, this is me. I have a lot of followers. So
I actually think that like social medias should, like when you're dating, like the very first dating time, I feel like we shouldn't be checking on other people, like their social medias. I feel like, and correct me if you like think something else, but I believe right now, because I have been in the situations where they see my social media and they not only see like what I've done, like it's not even, I don't even highlight all of the stuff I've actually really done. Right. I keep a lot of it to myself. And, but they'll see that, but then they also see who I associate with.
Yeah.
And I've had guys literally date me.
Just to get around your high profile friends.
There you go.
Ooh.
And it's
that's
so
gross.
cringy, and
It is.
it's something that, you know, like just having like keeping like social media is kind of like, and I know it's like really hard to like, oh, you want to go and creep and like see who they are, but really at the end of the day, like nobody puts like all of their stuff on social medias. So when you're dating, I believe that you should genuinely get to know that person for like who they are, like below that surface, before like what they want to show everybody else too, right? Because there's always,
I love that. Yeah.
I
I
feel-
want a man for whom like social media is not a big deal.
yeah. So like currently dating somebody that does not do any social media at all and love it. Like I think it
Awesome.
is amazing.
And literally does not care what you post.
No,
like,
does
that's
not care.
huge.
Yeah.
For these guys who are like emotionally triggered by what you post, it's like,
Yes. Or if I would never post them either. Like we would start dating and they would like
Oh.
beg me to post them, and I was
you
just
better
like,
post me or you don't care about me.
and it's like
Or they'd be like, you're posting me again. It's either one or the other.
yeah, it's either one or the other. I think, you know, men that are so, and I, again, like I'm just in a whole totally different like dating phase of my entire life, like than what I've ever dated. Because I'm going for certain characteristics now that I like within myself, but then also I want to enhance in my life too. So I'm dating what is like fulfilling me on the character level with men now.
Oh my gosh, which brings me to my another point I learned the hard way is like I with social media, my last two relationships, the one guy was like way over the top cheerleader for me, and the other guy was like critic.
Yeah.
And it's like I need neither. I need someone who doesn't really care
Yeah.
what I post on social media. They're not my fanboy. Do not date your fanboy.
Don't do
And
it.
and do not date like your Simon Cowell critic judge. Like you need a support system, but not like a crazy fanboy. That's what I learned.
Yeah.
So we're going a little long, but I wanted to add something else that I learned from my pandemic boyfriend. Not name names, just time period.
That's a good time
period.
I feel like a lot of people went through a lot of relationship crises during the pandemic. So that's a pretty good little, I want to know
My
what you learned then.
pandemic boyfriend, what I learned the hard way. Don't be frivolous with men's feelings. Don't act. I think women see men and think they're so strong, and you accidentally crush his heart, not even knowing it. Like, be gentle with his feelings. I mean, this was like such a strong, manly man, very handsome, and you're like, oh, it's impossible to hurt his feelings. And so I was just when we broke up, I was very like cutting with my words, and I regret that. That's before I laid down my emasculation sword. Like I'm done emasculating men.
Cutting, I've slaughtered it.
I think
That's not a good thing.
it may be an air sign thing. Like
It's
I know
not a
as
good
an
thing.
Aquarius, I have a potential to just be vicious with words. I was as a child, and I learned get rid of that.
Especially when you know how to articulate.
No, I was not the neighborhood bully. I just had a temper with my siblings a couple times.
Well, you had so many of them. You had like all those personalities like coming at you.
You
Like-
get strung out about it.
Yes.
But no, I was honestly, it's because he was so loyal to me. Ugh, this is making me sound like an evil person. I was not.
You're really
I was not
though.
evil.
You are a good person.
He wasn't the right one for me, and I just thought the only way to part ways is to just be really, really brutal and blunt with him. And I learned the hard way. You've got to be gentle with someone's feelings. Every person like has a heart that you want to keep open. I think humanity, we've all built these shells around our hearts from being hurt in this way or that way throughout life. And what you don't want to do is add a wall around someone else's heart by being mean to them. It's just like choose kindness.
Well, we also need to remember too that we're all growing in our own path and we're all learning as we go as well too, right?
Yeah.
And we all have different learning styles, we have different paths, we have different processes, we have and having that patience with somebody and understanding, and that's the whole thing about dating is you get to kind of find the person that you're like, "Oh, I like the path that you're on. I want to join you in your path."
Yeah.
Not try to get them to come to your path or
Yeah.
you push them to another path because you want them there. It's just, oh, this is a nice little flow.
Right. Totally. So I just think my last relationship proved how gentle I became. I was
Absolutely.
I was
That's
freaking
facts.
gentle with
No, that's absolutely facts. I watched this like firsthand and coming from like how detached you were, you are an Aquarius. It is what it is. And coming from Aquarius, and I saw how you were patient and you were attached, and I don't think it was unhealthy attachment to be honest. But it was more attached than you've ever been, and so I saw the patience that you gave, and I was like, "Go, girl! Like you were doing this right."
Yeah, it was me saying, "Okay, fine, I'm all in." Finally, I'm like cutting. I'm cutting the rope to my getaway, and I'm all in with you now. And I wrote that thing out, and it was freaking the hardest relationship of my life. But I was gentle the whole time, as hard as it was.
And patience.
So, and my bestie is Russian, and I was sending her screenshots of my texts with this man who I just broke up with in November, and she's like, "You're like a Russian bride." She's like, "You're like the most submissive little Russian bride. It's like too much."
Oh my goodness.
But coming from a Russian, I was like, okay, I learned the Russian way. But no, I'm finding balance with that through God.
Yes, I've kind of found some balance though too. Like I've recently tried this and it has worked. So with like dating, let him like guide him into making choices. And I started that, and then I started reading this book that told me about it. The book that you told me about. What is it called?
Why Men Love Bitches.
There you go.
And we'll do a review of that book.
Absolutely.
Once we finish reading it.
It's so good. And so I actually had already done this. And when I did this and I kind of like guided him and him making the choice, him leading, that flow is like so much better. Like before I would always just like make the choices because they were always trying to please me. And so I was just like making the choices and it just was not, it wasn't a good like flow and mesh with the dating thing. So ever since I applied that of letting him lead and then but also guiding slowly, if that makes sense. So example, he asked for dinner. Oh, let's go to dinner. Where do you want to go? Me, I say, your 2 favorite steakhouses, give me a choice or whatever, like, or your favorite steakhouse. And he'll give you choices, and they always give choices. And so, then he gives you 2 or 3. And last time he gave me 2. And so then I picked one that I hadn't gone before, which he had already gone, so he knew the menu. So guess what? He can tell me on the menu what's going on and what's good. So he's leading and he's going, but you're kind of like guiding in a gentle, submissive, but like it's just a fun. I just like this pattern of what's going on. And I read that in that book literally the other night to do that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, no wonder I'm really enjoying this.
I love that. Yeah. So you're putting the book into practice. Great book to review. We're gonna review it. It's a fascinating book. All right. I want to make one last point before we wrap this up. One last thing that I learned because it was such a crucial thing to learn in regards to betrayal. I know that so many relationships end in betrayal. And I just had I dated one cheater back in 2019. And what I learned the hard way, what you do not do in relationships is go into a relationship without resolving other betrayals in your life. At the time, there was this thing that happened with my dad and my brother, and I felt betrayed by them the previous year. We had this disagreement on vacation. I felt betrayed, and I never resolved it with my dad and my brother the previous year. It hurt me, and I felt hurt every day from what happened with my dad and my brother, but I wouldn't just face it with them. So sure enough, I attract a cheater, someone who's going to betray me in a relationship. Literally, law of attraction is so real. I had never had an issue with cheaters, but when I don't get over betrayal with a family member, suddenly here's a cheater ready to date me. And so I broke up with him and dove into spiritual work and realized I need to, like, I have this frequency of betrayal in my aura. It's real, guys. Everyone's ha-ha-haing, but auras are so real. So
They really are.
I think it was my yoga instructor who was like, you need to identify your family betrayal stuff. I was like, oh my gosh. And then like another spiritual guru was like, oh, I ran into this guy who's a cord cutter, like a spiritual cord cutter. I was like, ooh, cut my cords. Like there's invisible cords around me. I was like open to whatever. I just wanted to heal. And he's like, okay, well, the first step to me cutting your cords is that you have to either pick up the phone and call, text, write a physical letter to the people that either have betrayed you or you've betrayed. And I was like, oh crap, I have to break the ice on this horrible, awkward thing with my family. Yes. And it took this guy like dressed like Jesus to be and he was actually teaching me Jesus's ways, like forgive, for goodness sake. So and one thing he and all the spiritual people teach is that even if you feel like you're the victim of betrayal, it takes two to tango. It's you had a role in what happened. So you have to, no matter how betrayed you are, you have to apologize for your own role.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to forgive their role. And forgiving is not saying it's okay. Forgiving is just letting it go, letting it not matter anymore. And just letting it go. It doesn't matter. I don't think about it anymore. It's forgiven. And so
you have to think about how you led yourself into that position as well too, though. And then that's the forgiving.
So I picked up a phone, called my dad and my brother, told them I see the best in you. I send the best to you. I'm sorry, and I forgive you. And let's just love each other. And literally, those heart walls came down, and I finally had an emotionally available relationship after that. So my big lesson I learned the hard way is do not put off forgiving others and getting past this BS in your friends and your family, because it will leak into your love life. If you don't heal relationships with friends and family, it's going to impact your love life.
Facts.
Yeah. Do you want to make one last thing you learned?
Let's see. Oh, and we don't date our exes. It's an example of who you don't date. That might be a message for the exes that are reaching out.
Oh, like we are never ever getting back together.
We are never ever getting back together. No. Do not date your exes.
All these talking points are from Taylor Swift, by the way. It's me, I'm the problem.
There's 8.6 billion people in this world. Actually, I think it's 8.7 billion people at this time. And if you have your passport, you have access to, half of those, whatever. So,
and exactly, there's that many billion. And is it really that many now? Bill Gates isn't really doing
Y'all
this
can
thing.
fact check me. But I believe it's
doing
8.7 billion right now. Bill Gates is not doing this thing.
It's growing like crazy. The point is, there's that many people. There's one of them out there who's going to love you for you, and you're going to love them for them. And you got to expand your faith enough to know that. To know that it's just going to click one day. Puzzle pieces with your person are going to come together. You don't have to bend over backwards and beg someone to change or like struggle. Just abide in the knowing that it's all going to fit together one day. And
it always gets better.
You can loosen your grip on the one that you're dating or trying to date when you just expand your faith. Something I learned.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
Yes. So cheers. This household runs on Dunkin' and tea. Our two major things. Updating you on our red and green flags from friendship. I think that some of the things we touched on today in relationship cascade into friendship is that you want to be around a guy of character. You want to be around friends of character.
Absolutely.
Or it's going to influence you. Matter of fact, talking about love lives.
Absolutely.
What I've been doing with one of the red flags for me in friendship is if a woman has had a history of toxic men, I actually distance myself. If the woman is happily married, that's a green flag. I'm gonna be friends with her.
How are we still friends?
I know. That's the thing. I took a massive risk. No, but the difference with you is that you're facing it. You're like, the first step to recovery is like admitting your problem. And it's not putting all the blame on the woman, on the man. It's doing your own self-help. And so like if it's something like that, then like, yes, I'm gonna stay friends. But if I have a girlfriend who's constantly like, men are all toxic, I've gotta study this list. Let me join this Facebook page where all the women call out all the men for all their toxic activities so I can monitor and make sure I don't date any of these men because they're so obsessed with toxic men rather than facing their own issues. I'm not going to be as close of friends with a person like that. So, update on the red and green flags.
Completely agree with you. I've redecorated my front row. So,
and quick update on our fitness, dude. Are we looking shredded or what?
Okay, so I've actually,
dude, you're looking so skinny. Do a side profile.
Okay, so side profile.
Look at this. She's got her bikini body ready already.
No, not yet. It's getting there.
Dang it. Mine is.
My weight was. So I'm 5'6".
Like not as. See my ab line is
coming. Yeah, your abs are coming in.
My ab line is coming.
Yes. So I'm 5'6". I started my starting weight was like 148, and so I can kind of hide some weight places, whatever. And then now I just weighed myself. It was like 134. So
that's amazing, girl. What the heck?
So
you're looking great. I forgot to weigh myself last week. I need to check in, but what had happened the previous time I weighed myself is that I just plateaued. It was discouraging, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna cut down on instead of putting butter in the pan when I cook, I'm gonna spray lightly the light coconut oil so I get less calories. Which I just reverted back away from that because it tasted toxic and rancid. Those oil sprays are. I'm trying to do health and fitness at the same time. It's hard. But I'm sticking with it, and I am seeing my body firm up and shrink wrap after all. My body is going to shrink wrap. It's just taking a little bit of time, and the scale is not always proving the results you're really getting.
That's absolutely facts, because you could be converting fat into muscle too. And I think that's what is going on with you right now.
Yeah, I think so. I finally really got back to leg day, and it's good to add that muscle back. Okay, exactly. For next week, our next episode is weird health and beauty hacks that we do. Girls do some really weird things to be healthy and pretty.
Like taping her mouth.
Her new thing is taping her mouth shut when she sleeps.
Okay, we can't give them all the secrets
yet. That's just one we're not going to give everything away. I'm probably weirder than her. Just wait for it. So we'll see you guys next week. Bye.